Season's greetings, sir. In our data science project, but the problem statement that we have picked up is uh, for all of the 28 states plus union territories in our country, how are their crime rates being affected? What are the different factors that matter to each of these states for for how the crime rate differs from time to time and from state to state? So we were thinking about factors like police strength, their population, and their political party. Maybe these are the main factors which actually affect how much crime occurs in each of the states and how they can vary. So this is the problem statement we picked up, and um, now I would like to hand it over to my teammate Sukrit GL, who will explain you on from where all the sources we picked our data sets from and all the cleaning process. Over to you, Sukrit.
So initially, all the data sets required for performing this, for finding out the factors were taken from the National Crime Records Bureau of India. Mainly, we took the time period between 2009, 2010, and 2011. We found the data set for age group wise and sex wise breakup of persons who were arrested under the various Indian Code crimes. So as you can see in the cell 2 over here, you have various different states, and based on the age and the sex of the people, the crimes committed have been noted. So initially we went about cleaning them, and then found out for individual crimes. So for various IPC sections, we took the total crime count, and then we appended them as the set of uh, features to create the data set. Ritu, can you scroll down a bit below? So over here, as you can see, the column C1, C2, C3, they all belong to various IPC sections. And then with the total counts, we have the same for 2009, 10, and 11. Uh, Now Ritvik will take over.
Along with the crime dataset, we also use the CM dataset, which is basically the dataset that consists of all the chief ministers of each state and union territories over the period of time, which is 2009, 10, 11, which we have used for our case study. And we did some data preparation and cleaning to make this year-wise. Before it was in a range, so we made that into year-wise. And we also created a consolidated data set as over somewhere. Oh yeah, consolidated data set as shown here, which has the population, the literacy, and the police strength of the various states. So coming to the data analysis, we started off with hypothesis testing. One of the first tests we needed to make was whether the data we have is it normal or not. And by plotting the histogram plot and the QQ plot, we arrived at the conclusion that it doesn't look normal. But we didn't stop there. We had to perform some Ben-Shapiro tests and uh, Anderson-Darling test, Shapiro-Wilk test, sorry. So we performed those tests for the 2009, 10, 11 data sets, and the tests came negative for all of them. That is, it is not normal. And since as the data failed the Shapiro-Wilk test and the Anderson-Darling test, we went ahead with the chi-square test to check whether the crime ratio and the police strength, is it independent or not? Are those two columns in the data independent or not? And again, after performing that test, we also got that it is not independent, as the p-value was much more significant than the threshold we set, which was 0.05 or 5% of the data. Coming with the data visualization, we plotted various graphs to check whether, to see if we can arrive at any conclusions based on the data we have. And one of the first plots we did was the population, the crime versus the population. So after plotting the graph, we can see that Kerala has the highest crime per population, crime per capita, and Manipur has the lowest. This is for the year 2011. The reason we used 2011 was because the census was conducted for India in 2011, and we had the population data for that year. And we also plotted a very interesting graph called as the felony ratio versus the misdemeanor ratio. Felony is a crime which is considered as a grave crime. As mentioned previously on top here, felony consists of murder, robbery, rape, kidnapping, and misdemeanor, which is a less serious crime, consists of driving without license, theft, simple assault, disorderly conduct, and trespassing. So we created this ratio to see like how much of the crime committed in each state is a felony and how much of it is misdemeanor. Over the years, there has not been much of change versus like the lower half with the lower felony ratio and the upper half with the upper felony ratio. They've just been shuffled around in their respective halves. So we can see that Kerala, which had the highest crime per capita, has the lowest felony ratio. So the conclusion we can come at is the states which have higher crime per capita usually have more misdemeanor crimes than felony crimes. That's one of the conclusions we arrived at. And now coming to the police strength per capita, this is the graph which we got. Puducherry does not have, we couldn't find any data for the police strength for Puducherry. That's why it's blank. But as you can see, Andaman, which is a very small union territory, which has like one of the least populations in the country, has the highest police per capita, and even Lakshadweep and so on. But one of the this is a logical conclusion which we can make without the graph, I guess. But the conclusion, as you can see, is orange being the police versus population and blue being the population versus crime. As the strength of the police increases, the crime committed, it tends to be lower. It's not linear. It's not a linear relationship, but as we can arrive at that conclusion looking at this graph. And one more, taking a look at the political party at power, we consolidated the data set to check like which political party was in power when the crime numbers were collected. And the conclusion we got that INC had Indian National Congress. We compared with Indian National Congress, BJP, and I just left the others as others because INC and BJP are the two major parties of India. And this is not an absolute number. This is the crime committed per capita, and INC had the higher crime per capita compared to BJP, and others had the lowest. So as you can see, this is the conclusion. These are the three conclusions we arrived because of our project, and hopefully we can arrive at more when time permits. Thank you.